Hi, I'm Jim Banks, and we're here today to talk about Jim Banks' probate system. I created the probate system. Now, there's a couple of strange terms in real estate, and sometimes they get confused and intertwined. One's foreclosure and the other's probate. Foreclosure, as most of you know, is simply when someone cannot make their loan payments, so the lender takes back the property because that's what was used as a security device to initiate the loan to begin with. Probate. Probate is simply when someone passes away. The assets that are left have to be distributed, hence they have to be probated. And it's no more complicated than that.
Foreclosures, auctions, short sales, everybody is chasing after the same property. With Jim's system, I'm able to find unlisted property. There's no sign out front, real estate agents don't know about it, it's not on the internet, it's not in the paper, it's not on anything, any list you can buy. Jim's system told me what to look for, and when I was at the courthouse, I found it. On my first deal, I made $116,000. It's just simple, you just follow the steps, don't question it, just do it, and you'll see results.
I bring Rocco up for a couple of reasons. One of which is, if you do it correctly, as Rocco said, there is no competition. There's no list, and hence you'll buy property substantially below fair market value. The other reason I bring it up is there's a great misconception that once you go to law school, you know all about the law, and that's certainly not true. People who go to law school specialize. Corporate law, personal injury law, trial law, family law. They specialize. Take your next door neighbor's a brain surgeon. Your child falls out of a tree and breaks his arm. Do you take him over to the brain surgeon, or do you take him down to emergency and have his arm set? Of course you take him down to the emergency and have his arm set. Attorneys only have to take one course in law school, estates and wills. That's the only course they have to take on probate. Hardly anybody specializes in probate. The other reason I bring Rocco up is Rocco made $116,000 on his first deal. It was jeopardized. He called me at 10 o'clock one morning and says, Jim, I've got a real problem. He explained the situation to me. We had 5 hours to fix it. The attorney was going to do something that was going to kill his deal and stop him from making the $116,000. I was fortunate enough, I got on the phone, talked to the attorney. She had never done it before, of course. It wasn't her area of specialty. Explained to her, gave her the codes. She didn't do what she didn't have to do, which did not kill his deal. That allowed him to make that $116,000. Now, there's about a dozen people out there who have stolen my previous courses. And when you have a problem like that, you call them and ask them to fix it. They have no clue. I've done this for over 30 years. I was able to solve Rocco's problem as I am yours. I am here for you, period. Probate real estate is secret real estate if done correctly. If you do it correctly, the address is never exposed. It's unpublished, it's unlisted. Exposure is the enemy of the investor. It always has been. When we buy something, we want to buy something that nobody else knows about. If done correctly, probate real estate doesn't have exposure. Hence, you have no competition, and you will consistently buy substantially below fair market value. Unexposed assets. It's not just real estate. There's many times more personal property than real property in probate. Everybody owns something, not everybody owns real estate.
Jim Banks' system works, and it works for us because we've been in real estate now for 7 years and with no real estate background. So if it was not successful, we would be back to our corporate jobs.
And that would not be very fun.
Great couple from Tucson. How would you like to have $1 million? Well, of course, everybody'd like to have $1 million. But the reason I bring this up, because it's age sensitive. If you're 20, 30, 40, or even in your 50s, you think now you've become rich. I won't address that particular issue. But if you're a senior and you have $1 million, what it means is income stream. Historically, before the financial crash, if you had $1 million, investors were getting 10% off their investments, so hence they were making $100,000 a year off their $1 million. Since the crash, they're only getting about half that, 5%, so now they're only making $50,000. The reason I bring this up, because the rich never touch principal. That's one of the unique qualities of the rich. And the $1 million is a good example. They lowered their income to half of what it and learned to live on that. That's the reason I brought this up. Ben Stein said only 5 to 7% of Americans are going to retire to the lifestyle they had. That's obviously a very small percentage. You have to make money now and start savings for retirement. In 2005, the average family had $35,000 set aside for retirement. Now it's under 10. It's closer to 8. How long will you last in retirement on $8,000? I said this 30 years ago from day one. Anybody can make $20,000 to $30,000 a deal in probate, anywhere in America, anywhere, and can do at least one a quarter. It's not a limit, it's just a guideline of how many you could easily do. That's an income of $80,000 to $120,000 a year. Anybody can do this. It is not complicated at all. Warren Buffett said, we make money in spurts. And if you think about it, in real estate, we really do. We get a big check, so we don't spend it all, we save it, we make it in spurts. You have a 9-to-5 job, you get a $1,000 a year raise. What happens to it? 500 of it goes in taxes, and the other 500, you raise your standard of living. So at the end of the year, you're no better off than when you started. But us in real estate, we do make money in spurts, and we're very fortunate that we've chosen real estate. I know most of you know this, so this is just a reminder. There are over 10,000 vocations. One of the vocations has created over 70% of the millionaires before the financial crash, during the crash, and after the crash. And that one vocation is, of course, real estate. We're very lucky. The reason is leverage. Have an example here. You buy $1 million house. You lay down $100,000. A year later, the house is worth $1.1 million. You lay down $100,000, the house has gone up $100,000, you have 100% return on investment. Hundreds of years ago, retailers discovered that if they didn't mark the goods up at least 100%, they couldn't make enough profit to keep their doors open. We are business people. This is a business. We expect to double our money. Fortune 500 companies, there's not one that gets a 20% return on investment. The highest one is banking, and that one is 19.6%. We do a lot better than 20% in probate. How would you like to buy a property 40% below current fair market value? Well, you're certainly not going to do that using traditional methods of buying real estate. Real estate broker uses a multiple listing service. They put it in the computer, and every broker in town knows what's for sale. They share it with their clients. So everybody who knows how to read has access to it. Foreclosures, you can go to the internet, you can get lists of them. You can go to the lender, you can go to the newspaper. They're all over the place. Everybody who wants to make money in real estate certainly looks at foreclosures list. What advantage do you have over anybody else who knows how to read? One of my favorites is REOs, real estate owned. These are properties that were foreclosures the foreclosure guys didn't want, and now the lender has taken it back, and now they're trying to sell it. Auctions. We don't see as much as we used to see, but you'd be in an auditorium with 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people selling 125 properties. Those properties not only didn't go below fair market value, they went for 5 to 10%, even 15% above fair market value. Last but not least, tax sales. You go down to the county recorder's office, county assessor's office, you get the book, you go to the internet. Every property that's for sale in a tax sale is available. You know how to read it. You got access to it, and so does everybody else. These traditional methods will not show you or allow you to buy real estate 30, 40, 50% below fair market value. They're all exposed.
I've done foreclosures in the past. I've done no money down in the past. And what I can tell you is you give me foreclosure and probate to pick between or anything else in probate, and I'm going to pick probate.
I don't care to do foreclosures. Usually, if you're going to do that, you have to go to the courthouse, stand there with 85 other people, and try and buy this property, and you have to have cash in hand.
I have done some foreclosures. I mean, I bought REOs. I've bought them before the auction. I bought them at the auction. There's always a lot of competition. People get very ruthless about it.
Jim's system is a system, and the only one that I know of out there that gives you an opportunity to see a property before anybody else even knows that it's on the horizon for the opportunity.
The probate market has not even been tapped into like the foreclosure. Everybody is foreclosures. People are intimidated by probate because they don't know about probate and they don't know how simple it is to obtain probate properties.
You have very little competition because they're not easy to find unless you have a technique that shows you how to find them. His technique shows you that, and again, I hate to be redundant here, but you get out there and as often as not, you have no competition.
The system works no matter what area, what market. There will always be property turnover. There will always be an opportunity for you using the Jim Bank system.
Probate literally, the best way to make money in real estate, bar none. Now, what assets are in probate? Everybody has personal property. Every probate has personal property. Nobody lives in a house with no furniture, no clothes, and that's all they have. So every probate has personal property, and of course there's many more times personal property than real property. It's been my experience that about 85% of the time, a probate will have at least one property in it. There are over 7 million probates 24/7. Over 7 million probates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every county you've lived in your entire life, over 35% of all the transactions were probates. That's how voluminous it is. With over $6 trillion of assets, there is nothing like probate. Can you say, wow? Probate is the best way to make money in real estate, bar none, if you do it correctly. Last year, 2.5 million people died in America, and I had nothing to do with killing any one of them. But it is a bucket that never empties, and in fact, it is increasing. Boomers are dying at a faster rate than people are buying probates. There are over 14 times more probates than there are foreclosures. Why would you go after a foreclosure when there's 14 times more probates, even if you didn't know how to buy them correctly? Once a probate, always a probate. There's no cure for death. But the reason I bring it up is there is no redemption period in probate, and in foreclosure there is. In most foreclosures, there's a judicial foreclosure, and you have a year to redeem it. So you foreclose on my house, I come back 364 days later, you fix it up, it looks real nice, and I say thank you for fixing my house. And there's nothing you can do about it. In probate, we don't have that problem. The minute you buy the property, there is zero redemption period, which certainly is not true with a foreclosure. The probate numbers are phenomenal. Probate can change your life. And probate is the same everywhere in the world. I've got students in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, France, Germany, Russia, Saudi Arabia, all over the world. Probate hasn't changed in 100, 500, 1,000 years. The reason being, there's only a handful of problems, and the solution to these problems are the same and have been since the beginning of time and will be to the end of time. My system works. It has always worked. It always will work.
In the town of Defiance, Ohio, near Toledo tonight, they are talking about what just might be the holy grail of baseball card discoveries of all time. Carl Kistner was cleaning out the attic of his aunt's house. She died in October. He found a cardboard box that had belonged to his grandfather. Inside, hundreds of perfectly preserved baseball cards from around 1910, including Ty Cobb, Cy Young, and yes, Honus Wagner. Experts have confirmed all the cards are real and could fetch up to $3 million at auction.
A nice probate deal for you. They're out there, and they're this big. It's not as uncommon as you might think.
All right, quite a story here. A man in Carson City who died with just $200 in his bank account passed away, it turns out, in his own private version of Fort Knox. Months after Walter Samasco Jr. died, crews made a stunning discovery inside his home. Boxes full of gold bars and coins stashed all over the place. Brooke Boone has more.
This photo on his driver's license is the only picture we could find of 69-year-old Samasco Jr. He died in his home in June from heart problems, but his body wasn't found until about a month later. Joe Baxter was the neighbor who called authorities.
He'd come out in the yard and wave once in a while, but that's as sociable as he got.
When the house was put up for sale, the realtor, who is a friend of Baxter's, asked if he wanted to come over and take a look at some of Samasco's belongings. But what he uncovered was beyond expectation.
Because we thought it was ammunition. Opened it up and it was rolls of $20 gold pieces. So I've never seen that much gold in my life or coins that old.
The realtor immediately called Carson City clerk and recorder Alan Glover.
Said you need to come over to the house right away.
Glover says in weight alone, the gold is worth at least $7 million.
The amount of it was what was overwhelming.
They had to use a wheelbarrow to move boxes and boxes of gold from the house. It's now being kept in a secure location. And gold was not the only thing left behind. Glover says Samasco had $200 in the bank, stock accounts worth $165,000 and $12,000 in cash at the house. And
he was a hoarder. He had cases of salmon, cases of tuna fish.
Glover says he had cases of ammo, guns, and conspiracy theory books as well.
It appears that he did not like government very much.
But despite all his assets, Samasco did not have a will.
Close relative is a first cousin in San Rafael, California.
According to Glover, after the IRS takes their share, the rest should be hers.
Told you. That's Brooke Boone reporting for us. That expert up there says it's not just the sheer weight, that some of those gold coins they found date back to the 1840s. So historical significance here. They were minted in Europe, Africa, and Mexico.
The coin value on a historical basis, again, is another $500,000. Not bad, $7.5 million probate. Also, for those of you who are single, the niece in San Rafael is single, so you might want to look her up. But it's not the biggest probate I've ever been exposed to. This was a few years back. Christie's was selling this pearl that was in the shape of a football, weighed about 14 pounds. It was created during the Ming Dynasty. It's called the Pearl of Allah. They started with a small oyster and went to a much bigger one. They had all kinds of things happen to it. It was eventually given to an archaeologist, Dukes, who passed away, and Hoffman bought it out of Dukes' estate for $200,000. Now, they thought they were going to get $42 million for it. They didn't. They only got $25 million, which is barely 1,250 times return on investment. Not a bad return on investment. Here's a picture of it. That's how big it was. It really was a 14-pound pearl. Now, you saw American Graffiti. Suzanne Sommer drove this car in that movie, 57 T-Bird. I bought this car for $7,500, turned down $30,000 on national TV a month later. You may see me driving around Newport Beach. If you do, please honk, say hello. Wurlitzer Jukebox, 1015, Bubble Machine, quit making it in 1946. It was on Cheers and Happy Days. The current TV show called Revenge, if you look every once in a while, you see it in the background. It's also one of the jukeboxes that they use. Personal property. Every probate has personal property. There's jewelry, cars, antiques, coin collections, stocks, bonds, mineral rights, airplanes, trains, furniture. Everything a human being would own is in probate. Teacups. Whoever thought people collected teacups? It is all in probate. So don't just limit yourself to thinking real estate when there's so much opportunity with personal property. You have seen Storage Wars, Antique Roadshow, Pawn Stars, American Pickers. Many of those items are probates. Now, I want to take you to Storage Wars. Somebody has a storage device. They can't make the payment. The owner comes in, clips off the lock, throws the door up. There's 20 people there. They get to look in. They can't touch it, but they can look in, and they hope that what they bid, that they'll be lucky enough and have a prize inside. When I grew up, we called that a Cracker Jack box. We always hoped that we had a good prize inside the Cracker Jack box. Okay, now I want to take you into a probate property. Everything in the property is for sale, but there's one tiny exception. You're the only one there. There's not 20 people bidding the price up. That's why you buy personal property 3, 5, 7% below fair market value. Often you'll get it for free. They just want it out so they can sell the house. Do not disregard personal property. Probate, there is no overbidding if you do it correctly. You are there by yourself. You're the first one there. The theme to my program has always been the early bird gets the worm. Let me teach you how to get there before anybody else. The antique dealer, the car dealer, the jewelry dealer, stamp, coin, boat, plane dealer, furniture dealer, stock and bonds broker. All of these are in a probate. Yes, and you'll learn to grab the real estate before the real estate broker and the real estate investor do. Again, the theme is the early bird gets the worm. I will get you there before anybody else knows the property is for sale. Two properties, property A and property B. Which one's the easiest to find the address of? Obviously A. Which one do you want to buy? B. Why? Because the address is unknown. It's a probate. Probate is the only legal way you can buy real estate where the address is never in print if you do it correctly. It is secret real estate. It is unknown. Probate is secret real estate because it's unlisted, it's unpublished, it's not in print, it's not exposed. Hence, you have no competition. There is no better way of buying real estate. No other kind of real estate gives you that opportunity. It's secret real estate. If you're on my team, you will buy a dollar for 30, 40, 50, 60 cents. When you're buying a dollar 30% below fair market value, it's going to have a positive cash flow 100% of the time. Day after day, this isn't a one-time shot. There's 7 million to choose from. Probate is by far the best way to make money in real estate, bar none. It works. If it didn't work, I wouldn't still be around after 30 years. 7 million properties in a bucket that never empties. There's no opportunity like probate. First property I ever bought was over in West LA. I bought it for $30,000, sold it for $95,000, had a little fix up to $7,500, and had a gross profit of $75,500. Now this is a picture of that property, and I can tell by the deafening silence that you're amazed that this property sold for $95,000 30 years ago. It's on a large lot for California, 50 by 50. Yes, I agree with you. Those people on the west side, they're nuts. They think anything near the ocean is made out of gold. And the reality is it is. Now, obviously the house is very small because the lot's only 50 by 50. To have painted that house a dark color was really super stupid. Having two big trees made it even worse. But nevertheless, it was the first property I had ever bought, and it allowed me to make 3 times what I was making working for NCR. So I stuck with it. I bought another property through probate. And yes, this is the after picture. I know because I painted this with my own hands. Apparently I should have used a brush. But a little bit about this property. It was in Venice, California. Little cottage type of houses. Many of the probates are little cottage type of houses. 950 square feet. Real nice, easy house to clean up. Didn't need a lot. Spruced it up, painted it inside and out. Very typical. Was fortunate enough, made a little over $73,000 on it. After I did the second one, I knew I could work probate. I quit my job with National Cash Register and never worked for anybody else other than myself the rest of my life. Nothing trumps experience. There may be a few people out there that have more probate experience than I do. Chances of you running into them is almost zero. I've done this for over 30 years. I have experience as a buyer, seller, investor, broker, everything. Nobody has real, true experience above mine. I will be happy to share my mistakes and successes with you. LA Times had an article that said I was the father of probate. Father of probate, Mr. Probate, what difference does it make? I did create the investment system. It works. It has always worked. It will continue to work. Like I said, I wouldn't be around here for 30 years if that wasn't the case. A little bit about me. Graduated from Indiana University, went to graduate school at the University of Southern California, went to law school, West LA Law School. I have been a broker in California for over 30 years. One of the advantages of being old is that by being there for over 30 years, I've become a broker for life. Recently, I've become a broker in the state of Nevada as well. I love real estate, and I certainly love probate. Now, These are not, this is a real question. You buy a $100,000 house for $85,000. You turn around and sell it. What's your profit? Zero. Your profit is zero. The cost of buying and selling a property, any property, not a probate, any property, runs right at 15% in every city, county, parish in America. Why? For these reasons, and I'll cover this twice. Closing costs going in, holding costs, fix-up costs, closing costs going out, and sales costs. The sum of those 5 elements run right at 15%. So if the cost is 15%, we expect to get 100% return on investment, so we look at buying real estate 30% minimum below fair market value. Now, a little more detail on these. Closing costs going in is escrow fees, loan fees, points, and appraisal fees. Holding costs, the loan payments you make, plus the property taxes, plus insurance while you hold the property. Fix-up costs, as I said, most of the people who pass away are in their senior years. They don't maintain it. So yes, you will probably, more often than not, paint the inside and the out and spruce up at least the front yard so it looks a little nicer. That is not fixing a property up. That's just painting it. Closing costs going out. Escrow fees, transfer fees, and miscellaneous garbage fees, which I'll address in a few seconds, and sales cost. Again, the sum of these 5 elements run right at 15% when you buy and sell a property. You do not make a penny of profit in real estate till you buy something at least 16% below fair market value. Now, a couple of tips I'm going to give you. When you're buying the property and you're going to flip it within 4 years, get a binder on the title insurance. It will save you anywhere from $250 to $600 on every transaction. When you close on a property, work with the same title officer, the same escrow officer, or the same lawyer who's ever doing your closing. What happens typically is they'll throw what's called garbage fees on there, and they can range anywhere from $300 to $750 per transaction. You can stop that. A couple of other things. The person who quotes price first in real estate loses. That's an axiom of over 100 years old. The reason it was true then is because it's true today. The person who quotes price first loses. Another one, and this defies logic, and I was a math major, so theoretically I'm supposed to be very logical. But in my 30 years, I also see it true. And I know this defies logic, I'll say it twice. Your first offer is almost always your best offer. It's hard to believe. Your first offer is almost always your best offer. All right, just a few tips. Why must you buy 30% below fair market value? I just addressed that. We expect to get at least 100% return on investment. It costs us 15% to flip a property. Double that is 30%, so we don't pay more than 70 cents for a property versus its fair market value of $1. Hopefully you'll do a lot better than that, and you certainly should. There are over 75 million owners of real estate, homes in America. 24 million of those are free and clear. They tend to be older people. Older people tend to die. These people tend to be probate people. It's been my experience that about 35% of the time, the estate will carry back the loan. They will act like a banker. You'll make the check out to the estate of Mary Jones instead of Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whoever your lender is. The advantage to you, the investor, when the estate acts like a banker is there are no loans fees, there are no appraisal fees, there are no due on sales clauses, there are no alienation clauses, there are no acceleration clauses, and there's no credit check. And very, very important, in a probate, there is no title problem. You know, people buy foreclosures, turn around and sell it. And what they find out when the other person closes on a formal closing, you didn't have title. You didn't have free and clear title. You couldn't sell it. You never have a title problem in probate because we have a formal closing, just like if you bought it from a real estate broker. You won't close unless you have free and clear title. So probates don't have title problems either. You don't close if you don't have free and clear title. The ways to finance any real estate, not just probate, but any real estate, of course, are institutional lenders. There's hard money lenders. Sales contract. You want to buy a property with virtually no money down? Use an assignment. You get the deal. You sell the deal to me. I take over the deal. I give you a finder's fee. You have virtually no money in the deal, and you've made money. You didn't own it, but you controlled it. Partnerships. Now, I was involved in a lot of partnerships when I started. I didn't have a lot of money. I brought the labor to the party. They brought the money. Historically, we split 50-50, and there's all kinds of ways of having partnerships. Lease option, another way of controlling real estate without owning it. With a lease option, you control the property if you exercise the option or not. You don't have to own it. And there's all kinds of arrangements on lease option, from appraising it at the beginning, at the end, in the middle, percentage of payback. There's 100 different ways to do a lease option. But again, you don't always have to have money to make money. How probate can evolve for you. Some of you want to make $1 million. It's reasonable. It's not going to happen in the next few months. It may not even happen in the next few years. But as you're buying property 30, 40, 50, 60% below fair market value and making money, you're going to move up to more expensive homes. And eventually you will move up to what could be labeled a builder/or developer. And that's where the bigger money is. This is the property that put me over that line. Redondo Beach. The house on the left was a probate. When you walked in, you looked straight up 28 feet to the beam ceiling. There was nothing to interfere with that view. There was no first floor. There was no ceiling on the first floor. There was no ceiling on the second floor. You looked straight up to the beam ceiling. The heirs from Canada were in that motorhome. They stayed there till they got their money from me. They ran an extension cord across that property to the neighbor and paid their electricity bill. Now, as you can tell, I put in a first floor, pulled the front of the property out 9 feet, highest and best use. We'll talk about that again. And I decided to keep the beam ceilings because it gave more open space to it. This was the property when I finished. It had an unobstructed view of the ocean to the right all the way to Santa Monica, to the left Palos Verdes. Now, everybody you will ever talk to who's been involved in real estate over any period of time will tell you there's one property they wish they had never sold. This one is mine. I love this property. I wish I hadn't sold it. But I did, and it pushed me to go on to do more building and developing. I did make a little over $373,000 on that property, which allowed me to buy this property in Newport Beach. The house on the left, absolutely nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. Nice house. Oh, I did forget one tiny thing. On that previous house, I was able to buy the property for 21% of the lot value. The structure was free. This one, I was fortunate enough to buy this property out of probate for about 90% of the lot value, which worked out well because the house is a negative. I got to pay to have it bulldozed down. So, highest and best use, you can tell, put a big 2-story house on it. This is what it looked like when it was finished. 4,500 square feet, a beautiful house in Newport Beach. Made a little over $287,000 on it. It was a great probate, very happy to have had it. Now, vacant lot. Obviously you can see I framed it on the right. This is the front of that house. 3-car garage. To the bottom left is the boats, because it's right on the channel taking you out. And you can see on the right, it had boat docks. Now, in the middle of the picture on the right, that blue stuff is the Pacific Ocean. Just southwest of there, 2,500 miles, is Maui. This property was featured on the Orange County Register Sunday edition of the real estate section. This is the house from the channel taking you out to the Pacific Ocean. This was a great house. Sold it for $6.1 million, had a profit of over $1.2. So it is possible to do properties where you make $1 million a property, but you're going to have to work for it and work your way up. But those kind of deals are out there in the right areas. Everybody passes away, rich, poor, and everywhere in between. Somebody ends up buying the property. Now, here's one. As you can tell from the front of it, looks like a tear down. It looks raggedy, no question about it. The back, no different. Dana Point. From the backyard to the right, a whitewater view all the way to Dana Point. To the left, a whitewater view all the way down to San Clemente, where Nixon's Western White House was. Great, great property. Bought it for $2.1 million. In the first 30 days, a real estate broker drove by, standing in the front yard, and offered $3 million cash. This is somebody who knows what the property is worth. So this wasn't some harebrain. Turned around, took advantage of it, had a $900,000 gross profit, initial profit on it. You never know. When someone dies with a will, they're said to die testate. When they die without a will, they're said to die intestate. A few years ago, I was looking at a property in Venice, California. Lady next door was watering her yard. She and I started talking. I asked her if she has a key to the property, and she does. And she's kind enough to walk me into it, and I see the condition of the inside of the property. We're coming out, and I start to go back to my car, and she says, "Oh, Jim, by the way, the lady that lived here, she died interstate." Now, I don't think she died on San Diego Freeway 405, but I think I know what she meant to say. A will does not avoid probate. A great misconception. A will initiates probate. It doesn't avoid probate. A living trust avoids probate. Now, a question that often comes up is, well, everybody's getting a living trust, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of age, and that's certainly a true statement. But let's look at exactly what really happens. Gave a lecture in Houston. After the lecture, a guy came up. He's a really nice man, and he says, "You know, you're right." I said, "Well, that's great. I spoke for an hour and a half. Which sentence did I say that you felt was right?" And he said, No, I didn't mean it that way. He said, "On the 10th of every month, I take all my new acquisitions and put them in my living trust." Well, being the wise guy I am, I said, "Well, I hope you don't die on the 9th. The point being is any new acquisitions that require a signature that are not in that living trust have to be probated. There is no other way to change that title except with a document created by the probate court. So they have to be probated. The guy that heads up the probate is going to be the same guy that heads up the living trust. I bought many properties that weren't quote unquote in the probate, but they were in the living trust of the person who died. So what difference does it make? So the point is that 7 million probates unsettled is still climbing, and living trusts have no effect on it whatsoever. Your Aunt Elma dies. Largest asset's a house. How are you going to divide a house with a buzzsaw? Of course not. The only thing they can agree to divide are dollar bills. You have expenses, you have legal fees, you may have a loan going on, you certainly have property taxes, you have hazard insurance. You have to sell the property in order to settle the estate. Now, you've all heard the term motivated seller. You hear, oh, people getting a divorce, motivated seller. People in foreclosure, a motivated seller. True statement, but let me tell you, there's nobody more motivated than somebody getting free money, and that's probate. They didn't earn it. The guy who died earned it. That's a motivated seller. They want their free money. It's been my experience over 30-some years that about 12 to 15% of the properties in probate at any given moment are fixer-upper type of properties, which is how I started, sweat equity. Now, for those of you like fixers, good news, 12 to 15% are. Those of you who could care less, 85 to 88% are not. I brought a picture today of a fixer so we can all relate to what a fixer looks like. And even though this property hadn't been fixed up, it already has a positive cash flow. They have tours every hour there on the hour in downtown Rome. Real quick story. Doctor has a cocktail party Saturday night. About 10 o'clock that morning, all the plumbing plugs up. So naturally, calls a plumber, has a plumber come out. A few minutes, plumber has it working fine. Gives a bill to the doctor for $400. And the doctor says, $400? You were only here 20 minutes. That's a rate of $1,200 an hour. I'm a doctor and I don't make $1,200 an hour. And the plumber said, you know, I didn't either when I was practicing medicine. Anybody Anybody can do this. Anybody can make $20,000 to $30,000 a deal in probate. I said it 30 years ago. It was true then. It's true today. You can do 1 a quarter. It's not a limit. It's just an idea of what you can do. You can do as many as you want or as few as you want. But if you're doing 1 a quarter, you're making somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000. In today's world, if you're making $80,000, you're in the upper 20 percentile of income earners in America. I know you've asked yourself this question, and I would too. Why would somebody sell something 30, 40, 50, 60% below fair market value? Legitimate question. But let's examine what's actually happening here. All of a sudden, somebody's standing here with nuggets of gold in their hand. Do they jump up to Zurich, London, New York to find out the price of gold? No, these aren't investors. These aren't Donald Trumps or Trammell Crows or Jerry Busses or anybody else that you feel is a very well-known developer. These are people who are just trying to get along, just trying to stay alive. They're not investors. And nobody knows the price of personal property, diamonds, cars. Nobody knows that. That's the opportunity that we have in probate. Over 70% of the lottery winners are flat broke within 3 years. And every lottery is over $1 million. Life insurance company says that the beneficiary of a life insurance policy squanders every penny within 12 months. So it makes no difference if we give them $100,000 or $150,000. They're going to be flat broke within 9 months anyway, so what difference does it make? We are the good guys. We help settle estates. The average probate that we'll deal with will be over 3 years, right at 3 years. There are continuing costs, attorney fees, loans, taxes, hazard insurance, and unfortunately in today's world, an empty house gets vandalized. Drug dealers, kids just wanting to be kids and burn the place down. If the hazard insurance company can prove that that property was vacant a month and a day, there is no coverage of the hazard insurance. So if a tornado hits it, flood, catches on fire, that asset is gone. There is absolutely no recovery. We help solve these problems. We really are the good guys. Judges do not go out and see these properties. There's too many of them, even if they wanted to see them. Probate is the slush fund to the judicial system. There is nobody there to oversee and protect the estate. You say your Uncle Fred dies. You say, oh, the attorney's overbilling. Attorneys overbill when the attorney's your best friend. Of course they're overbilling. So you say, okay, I know it's overbilling. Okay. Who are you going to petition to? The judge? A fraternity brother of the lawyer? There is no oversight on probates. We help settle estates. That's our real title. We cut the cost in time and money. We bring cash to the estate. We bring closure, financial and emotional closure. We stop or at least slow down attorney abuse. And when we buy the property, there are no broker's commissions. Some famous probates. The first one's hard to understand on a number of counts. It's hard to believe Elvis only died with $10.2 million. He lost 72.5% of his estate by going through probate. President of the United States, Roosevelt, lost 30%. Rick Nelson, in Orange County, California, 11 years in probate, and he didn't even have $750,000 and lost 31%. W.C. Fields, 37%. J.D. Rockefeller, one of the greatest industrialists in this country, lost 64% of his estate going through probate. Now, you may say, well, gee, these are famous probates. I'm not apt to run into anything like that. And that's a fair statement. But let's look at the next one. Very typical. A couple of students found this one, $200,000. Very typical for a price of a probate anywhere in America. Between the attorney and his CPA, they took $90,000 out of a $200,000 estate. 45%. We can stop this or at least slow it down. We truly are the good guys. Very typical. Federal judge in Dalton, Alabama awards $2 million to 19 attorneys. Well, I would hope so. They got $1 for the plaintiff on a consumer gasoline price fixing case. I mean, how tough it shows you how tough it is to make a buck. It took $2 million to make that one. The laws are made by attorneys for attorneys to only benefit attorneys. Which is the better deal? When the address of the property is in print, or when the price is not or the address is not in print? Obviously, when it's not in print. Property A or property B? Property B, because property B is a probate. It's the only way you can legally buy real estate where the address isn't in print. How is the price going to go up? You're going to compete against yourself? Of course not. The best way to buy real estate, bar none. Anybody can do this with the correct tools and education, part-time or full-time. I am there to help you any way I can. One deal can be a year's salary. Those first 2 properties, I made over 5 times what I was making with NCR. I quit working for anybody else. Probate works where people die. Now, if where you live, people don't die, probate just won't work. My probate program will get you there before real estate brokers, real estate investors, antique dealers, art dealers, car dealers, stockbrokers, everybody else. I will get you there before anybody else in your town knows that that property is for sale. 7,000 probates. Think about it. You walk into a club, 7 million people of the opposite sex than you. Do you think you might hook up with a couple? And how many do you need? $6 trillion of assets. Even the communists are buying probates.
Within 30 days.
Maria's a real nice lady. She's from the ex-Soviet Union. Wonderful lady, made $50,000 on her first probate. It's a 4-step program. Each program comes with 3 CDs. It's very simple, very straightforward. And you have every form that you need with the CD that accompanies it. Every script you will need with the CD that comes with it. And every industry has its own nomenclature. So does probate, but there's only a handful of terms, so that's not a big deal. It is all covered. The course takes you from ground zero, getting there early, going to the close when you buy it, doing what you need to do to get it sold, listing it, and selling it. It covers A to Z. This is the most complete course on probate. I created the probate system. I've done this for over 30 years. It works. If it didn't, I wouldn't still be here. And you'll have me on your team. I am nothing more than a phone call away to help you save a property, just like I did Rocco. He would have never made that $116,000 had he not called me in to solve the problem. Same guarantee I've made since the beginning of time. If you will do 3 deals, at least one of which is real estate, and you don't cover the cost of your course, I will write you a check for the difference. Probate is a lucrative business, part-time, full-time. I have always said, do not leave your 9-to-5 job and start doing this. Just like me, you do one. And human nature is you do one, you say, oh, gee, I just got lucky. You do the second one, you say, man, I can do this. And that's exactly what I did, and that's when I quit my job with the National Cash Register Company. After a couple, then you may think about leaving a 9-to-5 job. The numbers are phenomenal. You can't lose unless you don't try. After probate, there is no more secret ways of making money in real estate. This is it. This is the last frontier of opportunity. Don't let it pass you by. I will show you all the possibilities. Probate singularly can secure your future. You want to make more money, you want to have a bigger house, you want to have cars that are paid for, you want to send your kids to college. Real estate has always been the avenue to become wealthy, and probate is the best way in that avenue. How are you going to make $30,000, $60,000, $100,000, $120,000 a deal if the address isn't printed and everybody around you knows that the property's for sale? You're not. You've got to have an edge. And the edge is secret real estate, probate real estate.
So the very first call that I made, even before completing the system, was my very first deal. I was able to make $6,000.
By the first property, we were able to make $30,000 by using Jim's system.
Using Jim's system, the very first deal I did, there will be a $100,000 profit to me in a very short period of time with very little work.
Using the system on our first probate house, we made over $16,000 in 30 days. And on our second house, we made $55,000 with one real hard day's work. And we think that's pretty cool.
Using Jim's system, our first 3 deals we put together with no money down, absolutely no risk to ourselves. We were able to make a profit of about $60,000 with absolutely no risk whatsoever.
With Jim's techniques within the first year, we made an additional $160,000 to $170,000.
This will be our retirement.
Most definitely.
It's something that we can do when we retire, and it'll also help us ease into retirement.
Now, the first lady in the pink dress, the reason she made $6,000, it was an assignment. She used an assignment and sold the contract and picked up $6,000. The gentleman with the blue shirt sitting next to his wife, who said they made $55,000 in one hard day's work, he was being sarcastic. He was trying to be funny. But anyway, the point is, this works. These are all verifiable testimonials. Probate works. Now, if you go to my website, jimbanksprobate.net, you will see the course sells for $1,997. But like probate, I'm selling this to you at half price. We're taking $1,000 off, bringing the course down to $997. It covers everything. It absolutely covers A to Z, nuts to bolts, everything. It will take you to find those properties that nobody else knows about. Thank you very much for listening to my webinar. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you join my team. These 3 bonuses, cashing in on personal property, shortcuts to financial freedom, and the personal property DVD, are available to you as long as they last. So please sign up, and thank you for your time today.